I didn't rehearse this. I'm sorry. I'm gonna, let's see, we're gonna save this first thing. I just started it a minute ago, and then I broke it. I got my little turtle waterfall. I'm gonna call this Turtle Mountain. Turtle Mountain. I like turtles. Yep, let's go with that. Okay, so I'm gonna go, let's see, I have this is Blender 2.8. Welcome to 2.8. I don't know what I'm doing so much either. Here we go. I figured out you can add a background image. I know it's this one. We go into wireframe. You can move the little box, get it out the way. Look at that guy. He is creepy looking. It's actually a thing now, though, so you can, as opposed to just being a static background image, like in Blender 2.7, this is actually a plane. It's an empty that you can hide. I'm going to rotate him because this is the way the head goes. Let's see, I'm going to stick this guy here because this is sort of the chunk of the skull here and everything else protrudes from it. So we're going to start here. I'm going to scale this along Z, tab, A selects all. If nothing is selected, you hit A. Tap it again, A twice to deselect. I'm going to select these two. We're going to pull them back this way along the X just because I know that we need lots of space. Nope. So what we're going to do first is this is kind of the way I make stuff. I fit it to like the sort of the largest area of the object. We're going to go right here, and here's the bottom. So I'm going to bring it back here though. Stop here. And then if you go into edit mode, you can hit Ctrl+R to do a loop cut, which makes no sense because R isn't in loop cut. But anyway, I digress. So anyway, we got our little guy here. We're going to go here about where the top of the jaw sits, and I'm going to do Ctrl+R and do another one around about here where the bottom of the jaw sits. I don't like doing things more than I have to, so as a habit, I do a loop cut on the top because we're going to make a whole turtle head, and I don't like doing things more than I have to, so I'm going to I loop cut it to chop it in half. If you Ctrl+R, it puts it in the exact middle between this vertice and this vertice, the two that you're loop cutting. So a good way to do it is to just start with your base geometry, loop cut it in half, select all the vertices on the other half, hit delete vertices. We've chopped him in half now. We're going to go over here to modifiers, add a mirror. We want it, because this is the y-axis, the green, we're going to go along the y and get rid of the x. So now we have two halves of a turtle head. Here we go. Let's see. Let's get back in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select face mode, select these two, go back to my ortho view, hit E to extrude, and pull them out about as far as this goes. Does it got to be perfect? Mostly because I ain't got that time. Well, I don't want to use up all your time either. So we're going to rotate. No, I'm not going to rotate. I am going to rotate. I'm going to rotate just a little bit. Pull it up here. We're going to deal with this little guy in a minute. You can see he's got a little spiky poke there and a little spiky poke here. We're going to take him here, scale him down to about there. Then I'm going to begin doing loop cuts up here at the top, and I'm going to scale them down just so they fit roughly along the profile of this guy. I don't know that I have to scale that one much. I don't think I do. You know what? Yes, let's do that. So, I'm going to switch back to my vertex mode because that's my favorite. And we're going to bring this guy here. Because we're working with a rock on this one, it's like a slice of pie, and a cliff face. The outside is like cliff faces. Some geologic event has shoved this turtle head mountain up out of the ground. Cut it out like a slice of peach cobbler. I don't like cherries, sorry y'all. So what I kind of want to do is I want to determine my angle and sort of keep these in a rough line, a rough straight line, you know, going down this way, because the Earth tends to put things down in fairly even levels. You know, whenever you're dealing with something on this scale, it'll be okay, don't worry. We're going to bring this down to about along the same line. I'm not saying what I'm doing. So I'm rotating these guys, which I selected with A selects all, double A doesn't. C gives you this circle for circle select, I assume. Here we go. Kind of the same deal here. I think I'm going to keep this one on along the same lines. This guy though, I want, because in my mind, whenever I made the first one, I wanted this. I like the idea of this guy having a lake in his mouth. It appealed to me, made me laugh, plus it made my imagination run wild. Oh no! You can see there what happened was the mirror modifier, I did not do clipping. So that's not too hard to fix. So what we'll do is, if you enable clipping, you'll see without it, oh, look at that, it looks horrible. It goes through itself. Bad, bad, bad. So we want clipping, just like no clip in video games. This enables no clip. Ugh. This turns off clipping. So as you can see, I cannot cross the x-axis because or the y-axis, because that's the one we're mirrored on. So I'm going to go G to grab and move them, and you can see I move them around, and I'm going to hit Y to limit to y-axis, so I can only move them this way. Clap, clap, clap. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to switch to face mode because I hate these faces. You'll see if you go to Z brings up shading mode. These are your shading modes. I work in solid and wireframe because we're going to do something called a subdivision surface that goes on afterwards, and it doesn't, the mirror modifier, it gets bad if you move the mirror modifier below the subdivision because it subdivides the faces. That's bad. It looks like a toe or like a camel hoof. Anyway, that's bad. So we want our subdivision surface below the mirror and the modifier stack, but having these faces inside, that's bad. So we're going to select them, hit delete, delete faces, not vertices, delete faces, they are gone. So now if you go back to solid and you were to mess this up and move this down, oh, look at that, it doesn't have those horrible, it doesn't split anymore. Isn't that great, guys? Because I wanted mine really wedge shaped, we're going to go to this guy, select these, vertex mode, G, constrain to Y, bring this out, and then we're going to go C for circly mode and get these guys here. And because we're limited to clipping along the Y, yes, yes, I'm going to bring this up here and go to proportional editing enabled, and because I want everything to move in a hard line, we'll go with linear, GY, everything within this circle is affected, the vertices here. I'm going to make it big enough to cover all these front ones, and when I bring this in, we're going to get a real nice hard wedge there. I'll go back to solid. Yeah, look at that. We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm going to add, because since this was a mountain, I'm going to add a cube. Scale it. I held shift in whenever you go to scale these, it scales all over the place on all axes evenly. So if you go scale and hit Z, it constrains it to Z. If you hit X, it stays on X. Y stays on Y. But if you want to exclude one single axis, you hold Shift and that axis. So like this scales on Z, but if I hold Shift and hit Z, it scales on every axis but Z. Ooh, fancy. So that's, say, the ground. So this is the ground. I want a sharper angle than that. So I'm going to rotate it up like something really happened here, y'all. I want it like sharp. This is me. Y'all don't have to do this. I'm going to hit A to select all. I'm going back to wireframe. Nope, I don't want that. I'm going to hit C, circle select these. Whoop. I'm going to hit O. O is the keyboard shortcut for proportional editing. Here. I'm going to turn that back to smooth, because I like smooth. And then I'm going to hit, I want it off. Oh, G, and we're going to move this guy back like this. Rotate it down, because I like the idea of that mountain in his mouth. I like it, so we're going to stick with it. Go back to solid mode. There he is. Now, to get the harder edges and not have him be so smooth, we'll use what is called loop cuts. If you work with quads in geometry, you can use these amazing things called loop cuts. One, working in quads, basing everything off of like a cube, gives you much more predictable geometry. A couple of these vertices are weird. Oh well, who cares? So you get much more predictable geometry. We're going to hit Ctrl+R to loop cut it, and as we bring these out, you'll see it'll harden those edges out for us. Give us that nice slice of pie look we were looking for. All the way around. That loop goes all the way around there. So you got those. Then we'll do R loop cut this away to bring that edge up. And Ctrl+R down that away. You can do a Ctrl+R here and bring it in to pull the mouth in a little more if you want. That doesn't show too well, me being way out there. Orthographic view, which is 5 on your keypad. Perspective view, you get like a camera distortion, lens distortion sort of, depending on what. Somewhere in here, you can set your you can set your viewport camera lens focal length, basically like 35 millimeter, 20 millimeter, whatever you like. I work in orthographic view for the most part, which makes this look crazy, but that's way more crazy than I wanted. Who did that? Yeah, there. Ooh, no, yeah, there. I'm going to hold Alt and select any one of these. Anywhere in here, like you can pick individuals, or you can hold Alt and click, and it'll select that entire loop. If you hit it here, you'll notice, like I hit here, it selects this whole loop because it's all one big contiguous line. If I hold Alt and click here, it doesn't go all the way around, but that's because if you follow it around this one, it goes all the way down and around real nice. But if you hit this guy, it stops here because you can see that this vertice breaks off and splits over to this one. So this one goes all the way around real nice, but this breaks off, goes a different direction along a different axis, and you've essentially kind of broken the loop there. We're going to go back to solid. I want this to be brought in, so I'm going to pick this loop. Again, hit my proportional editing. I'm going to go back to linear and go GY and bring this in to just cover about like, nope, about like that. Doesn't got to be perfect. Doesn't got to be perfect. I just want it shaped like that. So, anyway, that's that. Now, because you've got this and we've only modeled half, if you're like, hey, we're going to go sculpt on it, you'll notice, oh gosh, it looks horrible. and there's only half of it because we didn't apply our modifiers in modeling. You've got these guys. So this geometry is not actually really there. Blender's faking this. Even though if you went to rendered, you would see it, but if you go to sculpting, it's not there because you can't sculpt it. It's not actually there. So we got to come over here and apply these. I'm not going to yet because whenever I make stuff, I make it, the way my brain works, y'all, is it's dumb, and I like things being fairly realistic. Ugh, I'm going to get rid of him. I don't need him anymore. You can select him and hit delete. Back to this guy. If you hit G, you can move things. I don't want that on anymore. Disable. So you can move just this guy, but if you hit G twice, it moves it along the edge that the vertex is already on. I want this down a little lower because I want this one down lower too. And that's because I want the rock, because this is, in my mind, this is a slab of earth that's been cut like a slice of pie and shoved up out of the ground. So all of the rock layers and everything are going to be visible in this thing from the side. So I'm going to follow these. These lines are basically going to be my guides. So I want them to be fairly even and fairly straight. Doesn't have to be perfect because, you know, it ain't real, but I can't help it. So I want an eyeball punched out right here, and it makes more sense in my brain for the softer layers to be like along these lines, and then a hard chunk of rock has broken out of here to create the eye. It doesn't make sense for me to, in my mind, to, let's see, I want it a little further back. Yeah, I like it there, I think. Anyway, that's that. I use my loop cuts. Those are going to be where like the softer rock is, and the harder rock, something's happened here. So you pick this face, hit E to extrude. You can see it's curved. That's because of this subdivision here. If I were to hide it, you would see it looks like a hammerhead shark almost. Not what we want. So the way that works is you can actually take that and shove that further back by using a loop cut, and you can see those faces pull back in tighter. Another kind of way of doing it is to extrude. You can extrude just a little bit and then stop, click to place that face, and then hit extrude again, and you won't get that the curve that it gave you before. So knowing that, what I'm going to do is go wireframe and go E to extrude. The extrusion, when you do this, goes along the same direction, the orientation of the original face that you picked. So when you go extrude, you'll see it's not straight along the Y or straight along the X or straight along Z. It's based off of the orientation of that face. Now, I want it to be harder, so I'm just going to come in just a little bit, which you can actually do by holding shift when you move, and you can see you can move the mouse a whole bunch and it doesn't move far. If you let go of shift, it moves much more. So we're going to go back here, hold shift, come in just a little bit, click to place it, hit E again to extrude in. Nope, I don't want to cross that. You can see it snapping together as soon as I cross that X-axis because we're mirroring along the Y. We're going to click to place it and then extrude again to get a harder. See, so it's like you could put a campsite back in there, or treasure chests or whatever, or a pirate cave, I don't know. So I'm going to use another loop cut because this is too curved for me. I'm going to place it, and as you pull it closer to the other line, you'll see it bring those lines back in harder. So now you get a more square little guy. Nope, this is just for fakies. I think I made that smaller in mine, but doesn't matter. Anyway, here we go. After that, if you get the eyeball in there, it's really looking pretty darn about where we want it. So what I'm going to do is, you remember there's the little, before we do this, before you begin sculpting, you got to have all your base geometry there. So what I'm going to do is, remember they had that little snaggle tooth down there at the front? This face is too big. It's not going to look right. Let's see. This is going to drive me nuts. I apologize. Whoop. No, that's not going to work. Forget it, folks. Let's go. This is too big, so I know that just from playing, so I'm going to use my loop cut to go here. And because, again, I'm sorry, the way my brain works is, if this was a rock face, you got to get both of these faces. If you hit extrude, it'll look a little weird. You get a weird lip here, especially if you were like loop cut and go back up. And you do like a render, it'll look real weird because there'll be a lip there that it will try and smooth out. So kind of the trade-off with subsurfaces, you got to get all these faces out to the edge. So we're going to go E to extrude it, which extrudes along the face. And I want it to go straight down. And that still doesn't do it, so you hit Z again to get like a free, and then when you hit it the third time, it will pull it straight down for us. Now, because that still looks weird, that's because it doesn't come to a point, so I'm just going to hit scale, right, and scale it along the Y. Whoop, scale Y, Y, no, 0.1, yeah. And that'll give you a little bit of a snag there, like a little crazy peak that hangs down, stalactite. It's poking down there. It's kind of looking like an eagle head now that I'm looking at it. Whatever. Anyway, this is what we're doing, y'all. We're doing it good. You can use another loop cut if you like to bring that down and get much more of a hard edge on this for now, just for your geometry. All your base geometry, again, gotta be there. I think the way that I did it on mine was I actually picked these vertices and brought them in a little more. It's something you'll just have to play with and get used to. Figure it out. Have fun. Happy little tree/turtle head thing. Anyway, so yeah, we got this guy here. I think that's pretty good. We're basically ready to sculpt. So I'm going to, before I do this though, because I don't like doing things any more than I have to. This guy here is we're going to call him Turtle Mountain. I'm going to save, Ctrl+S saved. See you down there. Save Turtle Mountain blend. So we got this guy, and what we're going to do is Shift D to duplicate it. So I got another one. You can see them overlapping there. We are going to take this and bring this down just a little bit. I'm going to hide him, get him out of the renders, get him out of the desktop. I still want to be able to pick him later though, maybe. So we're going to hit this guy, select him, make sure he's selected. We're going to apply these modifiers, and then if I botch this up and hate it and I want to throw it over here and delete it, you can always unhide this guy and you still have all your modifiers, so you can go retweak your geometry if you need to. Hooray for not wasting time. Okay. Now, we got this guy. The new Blender 2.8 has these new layouts. I love these because you can go sculpting and it gives you this neat matte cap that makes it super easy to sculpt. The radius up here is talking about the size of the brush. You'll see how big it is there. And if you reduce this down to 16, your brush cursor is much smaller. All of the vertices within this ring are what's going to be affected. So let's say if we got a 20 pixel, and this is 20 pixels, like based on your screen resolution or radius. So as you zoom in, you'll notice the 20 pixels doesn't change. So it's context sensitive based on your resolution. As you zoom in and out, you're effectively using a smaller and smaller brush the more you zoom in. Ooh. So what we got over here is in the stroke, there is your spacing, which is just like in Photoshop. It's the spacing of the brushes, like tick, 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 10%. You can set it to 0%, but your sculpting is going to go much slower. The nice thing, though, that what you'll notice is this guy here, if we begin sculpting, it just is pulling these vertices out, and that's not adding any detail. So what you have to do that is come over here to Dyn Topo, which it will tell you that it will not preserve vertex colors, UVs, or other custom data, which translates into any UV mapping or texturing you've done will now be thrown out the window because you're going to be generating new faces and vertices. So if I go to wireframe, you can see better. You can see it generating new faces. Now, when it's doing that, the Dyn Topo has this guy here, this detail size. So if you set the detail size to 20 pixels and your brush size is 20 pixels, it adds a little bit, but not really much, you can see, because your brush size is the same size as your detail size. So like that whole face just fits inside of the circle there. So what you want to do, if you want any real detail to be added, is you got to go down below that. If you do 10, you'll see it generates much more vertex data, or more new faces. I think I usually put mine around 7. I don't know, I just played with it, and that's kind of what I like. These rock striations are going to follow these lines because this is hard rock, and this is hard rock, and this is hard rock, but the rock cracked because these softer layers eroded out. That's just how my brain works, y'all. It makes sense. It doesn't got to be perfect, you know, so you can come up this way. Right now I've got it on plus, so it curves out. If you hit minus, it will curve in. We can undo that and carve a little scratch up there for that guy. We don't want those. So we are going to, basically, with my minus and my strength, I'm going to put it somewhere down around 3.5-ish, right around there, and go along these lines. Ooh, something happened there. I don't know what it was. And again, since this is context, the context is your screen resolution, so if you zoom in or out, your sculpting lines will change. So while you're doing the same level of detail, it's best to not zoom in and out. Might be hard to do. I'm going to follow that line about as best I can. So there's some there. Those would be like the baselines. You know, that's where the softer layer is. So I'd come in here and I cut in on mine because since you can keep your brush size the same and zoom in if you like, you can see it adding more and more detail as I go along. We'll come up here. You can cut this guy in. I found clicking and releasing gives you a more dramatic, I guess, a quicker sculpting. If you click and hold and just keep going back and forth, it does it, but eventually it doesn't seem to really sculpt much more. And if you click and release, you get a whole new sculpt all over again, so you can see you're kind of starting to really push that in there. I'm going to do this bit a little quicker, but I came along here, sculpt this in. I'm going to bump this up just to help speed it up so y'all can see here. Sculpt in, came up to the end. What sucks is you'll notice, like, oh man, now I gotta sculpt all the way around. You can actually, let's see if I can undo a bunch of this. Oh yeah, I can. Okay, they got a much deeper undo. Whenever you begin to do this sculpting, since we mirrored along the Y, we'll sculpt and do the symmetry along just the Y, so just the Y is checked, so that, ooh, I gotta turn my Dyn Topo back on. Yes, hold on, I'm gonna save. enabling and disabling this can actually cause your Blender to crash, so it's best to, I want that back to 7. It's best to save frequently when you're sculpting with Dyne Top of One. Oh, for crying out loud, I had plus. Yep. Let's not rehearse at all here, guys. I'm going quick. Let's go. I don't want to waste too much of y'all's time. I'm going to follow that line, roughly, whatever, and zoom in, and we'll cut in a little deeper here. Kind of just really chew this up. Zoom in a little more. I like that. You don't got to be perfect. Actually, and what you can do is come over here to the jitter, and you can turn this up a little bit, and it's just like jitter in Photoshop. It'll kind of jitter your brush movements to help create a less even and more organic sculpt, maybe, depending on what you're doing. But it does function just like jitter. And you'll see, since I'm doing this now and we have our symmetry on, everything I've done over here is mirrored over here. That's nice. Since we're working with geology here, everything tends to be down in one layer, right? I mean, it always comes out even 100% of the time, yeah? So I wanted this on mine to be 8 in, almost like if you were a little mountain climber guy, you could come up here and get in this guy and like hike all the way up from back here. If I were to make one back here, let's cut back in this way. Don't gotta be perfect, who cares? I'm not worried about it. Are you worried about it? Nope. We're gonna do that. Be like, I don't know what happened there. Yep. Cut in. Cut in. This wore down. So yeah, as you follow this line up, you could break free, climb up here, run along this little edge if you wanted to make this a huge mountain in your game level, and then you could actually, orthographic view for the win, you can zoom in, you could actually get up here to the top and then run around, so you know this would all be there. I want to detract that, so I'm going to bring that down and really erode the end of this thing here. There we go. And you can actually use this guy here called pinch. I might make it a little bigger for this. Oh, that's crazy big, y'all. I'm sorry about that. And what it'll do is it'll pinch all these vertices so you can get, like I did that on mine. I was working with a rock and I wanted that harder edge. You can see it's giving me more of a harder edge by going along here. It's taking all those vertices and pulling them together like, you know, bending a piece of paper and creasing it. You can do it along the front. You can kind of watch out though, because you can really destroy your geometry like that. Usually, and since you can use your brush to like you'll see that I carved all that in there, but if you zoom way out here and click, it all goes away. So you can kind of redo topology. It's not the cleanest way, but if you actually do that, you can do that, and then you'll see it's gone. It looks a little wonky, but if you go back out of sculpting, back in, maybe save it and reopen it, those other vertices will like mysteriously disappear. I've done it 3 or 4 times and it's worked every time. I don't know why. So we're going to shrink this back down. I'm going to go back in and cut this back in because I liked it. Again, I'm going to keep clicking for a faster sculpt. I don't know why it does that, but anyway, there's that there. And you can actually say, I think on mine, on one of mine, I built this up a little bit, and I had like a little lip, like almost a little crest, a little peak out here, you know, something for like a little mountain. You could almost go up on like spooky, you know, and like look out over the edge or whatever, and since we got our symmetry on, I think even on mine I had I put a little a big thing up here. It didn't match the geometry too much, or the geology too much, but you know what, who cares, man? It's kind of like what looks cool. Forget all that noise. Do what looks good. Kind of the same deal here. I wanted to follow that line, so I'd made like, you can go in here and sculpt this down. Your symmetry's on. It's fine, don't worry about it. You can really round this down, bring your peak down, make it all craggy, you know, whatever you want to do there. Add it back up. I do a lot of like reducing, like stripping it down and then building stuff back up, and then going back to minus and zoom in, and then I said minus, and then I don't think I clicked it, and then carving it back out again a second time. You know, you can get some more interesting looks, you know, so whenever you're out here, if you don't like it, say it's too much, if you think it's too strong, you can actually hit this smooth guy and zoom out, and you can click and kind of smooth that back out. And you'll see now it's not as, you know, craggy or crinkly as the other side. I wanted, let's do the minus, we're going to raise this up to probably around there, because we have our symmetry on, and the strength is a little high for me. 5 just feels like too much. You can really get some neat, as you're carving on the inside, it really looks organic, almost like you're looking down the throat of something, you know. I wanted, that's not good. Let's see, how can I do this real quick? I wanted to do like a, oh, I know. I'll do this, do my enable with my smooth. Let's try smooth. Maybe this one. G. Which, no, Y. Bring this down. Whoop. Initially, whenever I made this, I wanted like there to be room for a lake in this guy's mouth. Nope, that one. So I kind of rounded it out at the bottom, and then hollowed it out so that you could get. Once, you'll notice if you go into edit mode and then you leave edit mode, it'll tell you not tell you, but your dyne topo will be disabled. You have to go back in. So usually after I do that, I'll save, because sometimes checking this box will make things crash, and unchecking it will make things crash. So I want, yeah, like that. I wanted a cave in the back, so like you can really crank this up, and you can get like, you know, you can open up a cave opening back there. You know, however you want to do it there. And we'll go back here, take this down, and go add. And I think I had, because the ground's here, which is what this plane is, you can pull this stuff out and really, like, you know, build up stuff. It helps keep you, for me at least, you know, like having the ground there. You can look at your terrain and get your terrain built up. This is too big. Whoop. Not minus, but plus. So yeah, we'll get this built up. I wanted like I wanted a peak here on mine. You know, like a snapping turtle, they've got a little thing on the end there. You know, another little one that comes up out the bottom. you can do that and get a point going on, and then really start sculpting it out. Get your ridges built up. You know, nowhere in particular for me. I think, you know, you can add something else there. Get this going. I'm gonna pile this guy up. I think the way you could do that, I think I had, yeah, it doesn't matter what I had before. Let's do something different this time. So we got this guy here. Let's bring this up. And what I'm going to do is, we got another little mountain looking thing over here. See, sometimes that's why I say, like, you'll get some weird stuff, but sometimes saving and closing, it'll come back. I don't know. I'm just playing. We'll go to minus here, and I came in and whittled this down a little bit. My dime topper went away. There it is. There we go. That's better. And I'd eaten this bit back and then went back and built the edges, all this back up. So that it flowed out into the surrounding area. You know, however you want to do this. But I built that up so that actually, you know, what it would be is, like this area would be, let's see, you could add in just some straight lines. Use your minus and go in and, whoops, you got to be like an orthographic viewer. Use your minus and add in, you know, back in your striations if you want. Whenever you're getting down here on the ground level, though, some of that stuff will be kind of important, you know what I mean? So, but like this big craggy mouth on him that's all bleh, opened up, and just really kind of, we'll scribble around in here a little bit. Give him a hard edge. Looks almost like some sort of a snake mouth or something, you know what I mean? It's got all these wrinkly crinkles in here. That's what that symmetry does, though. It'll help with that, if that's what you're looking, is almost more of like a, this is almost kind of a organic-y stone look, you know? I mean, when you do that, and then you can just go back up here and do sculpt and turn that symmetry off, and then, you know, change one side up. You can kind of push stuff in a little bit here and there so like it roughly matches, but not perfect, you know what I mean? So that it doesn't look too much the same. You know, really get in there like that on that one and mush in one spot real good, and then kind of zoom back in and we'll blah. But, you know, then you can, I think I had mine ate out just a little bit more down in here, and then added some ridges. I mean, it's just, you know, it's totally what you want to do, man. I mean, every time have fun. You know, and if you want to, let's see. Whoop. Let's go back to modeling. We're going to take this and bring him up so you can kind of see like how the water would flow. It'll spill out the right side a little bit first. So if you were doing a game engine, you can kind of use that to see where the water would flow. If you were doing a lake in the middle like I wanted to. So I would have to raise this up, you know, pick this guy, go back to sculpting. Yep. Oh goodness. We'll go to back to here and add this side up. Boop. But yeah, that's really about it. I mean, I don't want to be like, yeah, that's it. But yeah, that's it. There you go. You know, I mean, I added other little details like I had because, again, I'm sorry, and that's just how my brain works, but I had this. I went in here and chewed this down because, whoop. You know, in the real world, you know, this bit would be 8 out. Maybe there's a, you know, a waterfall or something there. You know what I mean? The water, the rain over the eons would fall over this and you know, wear it down. You can go in, you know, again with your however you want to do it, and I would just keep, you know, adding and taking away, adding and taking away. You know, I would do all kinds of little layers, you know, like that, and just you know, because as you zoom out, and then you can use texturing or whatever you'd like to do if you want to use like crags, you know, the vertical cracks that you would get that would not be, you know, even. You know, that sort of stuff like, you know, you see on cliffs, big boulders, whatever. On mine, I actually ended up using a, let's go over to modeling. I actually added in a mesh cube. I did this, scaled it in on the X. And I put it in somewhere like this, kind of along those lines. Brought it down to like this striation level. And then I used loop cuts, which you can scroll down to add more loop cuts or scroll up to add more. Down removes, up adds. More like that. Added them along this axis. Added them along this axis. And then used your alt click, you know, to like, you know, move around this way, and then you could, yeah, you can bring this down and loop alt cut this way and keep grabbing these things and move them around. Rotate them if you'd like. Same with these. Rotate. Click there, rotate. And once that was there, you can click this guy back to your Turtle Mountain, add another modifier, Boolean. Tell it difference, because you want the difference. And pick, I don't know which one it was, I don't remember, so you can use the eyedropper to pick it. And then if you go back to, what was it, cube? Which one was it, y'all? Oh, that guy. Yeah, so you go down here, and if you hide him, you see now you got a big crack in your mountain, like maybe where this whole top layer of rock split. I don't know. That's best for you to figure out. You'll see you've got your crack goes all the way through, and we just use that other little box to break it out. So that caused a big split there, And then, I don't know, maybe you want to lift this up. You could go in and cut it along here, rotate this whole section up. The choice is yours. Someone set us up the bomb. Make your time. Anyway, I guess that's that. Hopefully that works.